You can see I have a basic web page running, with the script tag which I called lesson.js. The only thing I did to the page was to add a dark background so that it doesn't hurt my eyes. For our first challenge, we have to move zeros in a given array to the end of the array. Here are some examples of how it should be done. The arrays on top shows some examples of how the arrays are to be passed as a parameter on our function. The arrays on the bottom shows what should be returned by our function. I'll start by creating a function, which I'll call moveZerosToEnd. This function will take one parameter array. The method I'm going to use to tackle this problem is simply creating two empty arrays, one for storing non-zeros and the other for zeros, then merge them. I'll now create a basic for loop that terminates at the end of the array. Inside our for loop, we'll need to check if the current number in iteration is equal to 0 or not. If it's not equal to 0, we'll use the push method to push the number in the non-zeros array, and the same goes with the zeros. Now we're going to merge our two arrays. At this point, you might have forgotten how to merge arrays, or simply never merged one before. Most people would probably ask AI for help, which is not a bad idea. In this video, we'll be doing it the old school way. You'll need to navigate to the JS documentation site. You might use any, but for this tutorial, I'll be using this one. The link will be in the description below. After you have navigated to the website, go to JavaScript, Arrays, then click on Array Methods. You'll see different kinds of array methods. The one we're looking for is this one. Click on it. It should bring you to this page which describes the method and how to implement it. You can click on Try it yourself to get more details about the method and even test it. Now that we know the method to be used and how to use it, let's implement it to our function. I'll declare a constant called moveZeros, and I'll set it equal to non-zeros array. The name of the method concat. Then inside, I'll pass the array we want to merge at the end, which is zeros array. Now, I'll return it. Let's console log the function to test it. As you can see, the function works as expected. The zeros are moved to the end. Let's try the other one. Run. The zeros are moved to the end of the array. Let's try the one with 6 numbers. Same thing, zeros moved to the end. I'll comment this. Now let's move to our next challenge. For this challenge, we'll need to find the longest consecutive zeros in a given number. For example, the longest consecutive zeros in this binary number is 4. Let's start by defining our function. We will call it longest consecutive zeros. It will take a parameter of string. You could pass a number parameter, then string fact it, but I'll not be doing that in this lesson. We'll need an array so that we can easily loop through the number. To make the array, you split the string using the split string method. I'll declare a variable called zeronum. This will store the number of consecutive zeros we come across in the array. I'll set it to 1, since in this challenge, it is assumed at least one zero is present. I'll also declare an empty array called zeroArray. This will store the consecutive zeros, so we can find out which one has the most zeros. Now, we'll loop through our array using a simple for loop. Inside our for loop, we'll check if the number in current iteration is equal to 0, and the number after it is also equal to 0. Then, we'll increment zeronum by 1. Else, we'll push the zeronum into the zero array and reset the zeronum back to 1. We are done with our for loop. Now we will sort the array to get the highest number of consecutive zeros. For sorting an array of numbers, I'll use the JavaScript documentation to show you guys that everything you need to program is on the documentation and is not that hard to understand. You can see, guys, that everything is here. No need to use AI, which will just give you the solution to the whole challenge. Now that we saw how the sort method works for numerics, let's implement it in our function. Here I'll use b-a for sorting in reverse order. We'll return the first index, which is the highest number in our array. Okay guys, let's test it. I'll console log it. Enter some random numbers with zeros included. You can see our function works as expected. Here we have 4 zeros. Let's add the 5th one and run. And we get 5. Let's have 2. We also get 2 on our console. Now let's say the sort method didn't exist in JavaScript. How would we tackle this problem? I'll comment this line of code and show you how you could do it. I'll create a function called sortArray. It will take an array as a parameter. We'll use bubble sort algorithm for this example, but you could use any. For this function, we'll need a loop to iterate through our array until the numbers are sorted. We'll use a while loop. You'll need to be careful when dealing with while loops. In any programming languages, make sure they terminate so they don't clog your 2 GB of RAM. Inside this while loop, we'll declare a for loop to loop through our array. We'll check if the number in current iteration is greater than the number in the next iteration. If that's the case, we'll swap the 2 numbers. I'll take the number in the current iteration and set it equal to the next iteration. Do the same thing with the one in the next iteration, set it equal to the previous iteration. But notice that we are setting the next iteration number to itself, since we already swapped the previous one. To solve this, you can declare a temporary variable. Our function will return an array. But notice how our while loop is infinite. It has no termination step. To solve this, I'll declare a termination variable called checkFalse and set it to 0. I'll increment checkFalse value every time our if condition is true, so we know we still have disordered numbers. Here I'll check if the value of checkFalse is 0. That's if our code ever hits inside the if statement, suggesting the numbers are still not in order. We also need to reset the value of checkFalse back to 0 in every while loop iteration, so the loop doesn't destroy our cheap RAM. Now let's test it. Run it. As you can see, we get 1 instead of 2. This is because our sorting algorithm was sorting in ascending order. To fix this, just return the last element of the array. We get 2 as expected. So that's it guys, that's all I have for this video.